All right, we're going to get started now. I wanted to welcome everybody to the very first installment of the Wine Business Monthly webinar series. Today's topic is virtual tastings best practices, the technology, training, and techniques wineries are using. A few quick housekeeping reminders for everybody. Please make sure your lines are muted. There is a chat section as well as a Q&A section that we encourage you to use. The chat is more of an informal way for you to communicate with other participants, and the Q&A section is where we'd like you to submit your questions for the panelists to answer towards the end of the webinar. Another reminder, this is being recorded and there will be a replay available on winebusiness.com within 24 hours. And we will be sending out a follow-up email to everybody with a link to the video as well as a survey that we encourage you all to complete. Okay, so now I would like to introduce today's moderator, Erin Kirschenmann, our managing editor at Wine Business Monthly. Erin?
Thanks, Stacy, and thanks to everybody who is participating in Wine Business Monthly's very first webinar. We're just super excited to bring you webinars. We've been discussing ways in which to build our digital resources in a way that's useful and exciting, and really, most importantly, engaging. So webinars have been in the back of our minds for a while now, but it seems like there's no better time than the present, and we made the decision to move forward. And really, what better way to kick off our webinar series than with a discussion about virtual wine tastings. Over the last week, the number of press releases and social media posts that I've seen about virtual experiences has been absolutely staggering, to say the least. It seems a number of wineries have quickly caught on to some of the benefits of these digital tastings. Things like reaching the consumer wherever they happen to be, finding new consumers that wouldn't otherwise make a trip out to your local wine region, keeping your tasting room employees engaged and lately employed. And that's just a short list of some of the benefits. There's some environmental and financial perks as well. Long before the news of this coronavirus outbreak started, I attended a tasting held by Lux Wines, which featured some of the Italian wines in their portfolio. The group decided that rather than sending a bunch of journalists out to Italy and paying for all of that, and also damaging the environment in many ways by doing so, they would bring the Italian countryside to the journalists. So they held this big tasting in San Francisco, and using the Facebook Oculus headset, they featured videos that had tours of the vineyard, of the cellar, and interviews with the winemaker. And it actually felt like you were standing in the vineyard talking to the winemaker in Tuscany. It was actually a pretty cool way of doing a tasting. And it actually encouraged me to buy the Facebook Oculus. So I know that that's a really high-tech way of doing a digital tasting, but it's another really inventive way to take advantage of the digital world. So while those types of full virtual tastings aren't something you can pull off in a matter of days or with a limited budget, using things like Zoom, Skype, or other meeting software platforms to host digital or virtual tastings is something that anyone, anywhere can implement. So while a lot of this is being spurred on by quarantines and shelter-in-place orders, the virtual tasting is something that can and probably should live on after we've all gone back to our normal day-to-day lives. So to kick off our webinar series, we've asked 3 winery reps to talk to us about their experiences delivering hospitality and brand stories to their club members and newcomers alike. We're going to aim for an open and honest discussion about how they set it up, what worked for them and what didn't, and where they're going to go from here. So it's my absolute honor to introduce you to the panel. First, we have Shannon from Clos du Val, Robert from Amista Vineyards, and Art from Flambeau Wines. Excuse me. I'll be asking the group questions, but please feel free to send in your thoughts or questions as well through this Q&A feature. All right, I'm going to dive right in. Shannon, why don't we start with you? Could you tell us a little bit about why you started to offer these virtual tastings? What was your inspiration?
Sure. I think like so many of us, the team at Clodoval, we've been talking about how to engage our customers in the digital world for some time. As we've continued to see visitorship in Napa Valley the last few years decline, it's always on the back of our minds, like, how do we meet customers where customers are and offer up different opportunities? So the idea of a virtual tasting is actually something that's been up on my, big idea whiteboard in the office for some time. But certainly as we started seeing travel restrictions and then everything that's followed come into place, it was really kind of a kick in the pants to get this moving and to launch it. And so that's what we did.
Robert, could you tell us a little bit about why you started offering these virtual tastings as well?
Well, people, what we're looking at are the traffic in the tasting room obviously isn't happening now. So we need to replace those revenues with other ways. It was looking at how we can also connect with consumers differently than what we have in the past. We've tried digital in the past, and you get some response, but not an awful lot. Now we have a captive audience with everybody being at home, and it's an opportunity for us to connect with them that way. And I think it's that first step of people trying something new and engaging with it that we'll be able to see this continuing on in the future.
Excellent. And Art, your thoughts?
Yeah, first, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, start there, because I know that some people are having a hard time hearing and something can always go wrong. For us, we started looking at, we've done sort of interactive videos, over time through social media. But this was the first time we really wanted to implement it as a sales technique and a branding technique. So we did our first virtual tasting this past week, and it was really well received. But I think that the key ways to make it interactive, I know that the simple thing would be to just sort of try to have a tasting like you would a normal tasting. That's just not going to get people interested, in my opinion. So I really think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of sounding board and see what works and what doesn't. And obviously we'll continue to improve it, but it's certainly a work in progress.
Great. All right. So let's start out by asking, how are you hosting these tastings? What technology are you using? And how did that affect your choice to offer one-on-one tasting or do something in more of a group setting? Robert, let's start with you.
Yeah, so we haven't actually done our virtual tasting yet. Zoom Pro is one of the programs that I'm a little more familiar with, the one that we're using here today. The reason why I went with Pro is because it gives you the ability to have multiple attendees for a longer period of time. The standard version cuts you off at 40 minutes. Although Zoom is extending that, but it pops up in the middle of your screen that says that they're extending the time period. And I wanted, much like this with the panelists, I wanted our members, club members, and recent visitors to be able to see who is attending. Our brand is really about fun and friendship. So being able to visually see the other attendees was really important to us, because there are people that will come to wine club events and they'll be able to point up to the attendees and say, oh, I remember seeing that person. So it gives them a bit of connection as well to what we're doing.
Excellent. Shannon, I know you're also using Zoom as well, but you're doing a lot of one-on-one tastings. Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, but can you hear me?
It's a little better.
Is it a little better? I'll just talk loud. I'm not quite sure. Of course, we'll get to what are the challenges, and this will be one of them. Am I okay?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So yeah, we are using Zoom. I know as a group we've talked a lot about, or a little bit about, kind of different demographics, and our customer base actually kind of runs the gamut. You know, in regards to demographics, we've got a consumer base that kind of falls in all different demographics. And what we found is Zoom is pretty familiar to everybody across the board there, in regards to, you know, they've used it in business and certainly in personal as well. So it was kind of an easy platform to adapt. And so, yeah, we are focusing more on the one-on-one tastings with this initiative. We have definitely done group tastings in the past, and we'll continue to do them. And those we do on different platforms outside of Zoom, either kind of static video or Instagram Live. But these one-on-ones, Zoom's been awesome. It gives us the ability also to record, which is great, not only to kind of give back to the customer if they want it, but it's also been a really fantastic training tool as well for us as, you know, managers and such, to be able to give feedback to the different hosts that are hosting customers.
Excellent. And Art, I know you're using Instagram Live. Could you talk to us a little bit about why you chose that platform and how that affects how you deliver a tasting?
Yeah, we looked at a lot of different options. Zoom's one of them. I mean, you can certainly have a meeting that way. I think that Instagram is just better for a number of reasons, and obviously we're going to keep exploring. But first of all, you have the interactivity. You can actually join someone to your live tasting. So we have people that are club members and who aren't, who joined in and told us what they were drinking. We sort of made it a fun, interactive experience. It pops to the top of everyone's feed. Now, the drawbacks are that you have to be a member of Instagram, but we have 13,000 followers, and we're sort of a small family. We use it as an opportunity to get more followers. So we're thinking about trying to promote the live sessions, and we're going to do them every 2 weeks, and just see if we can build a little bit of a following and a little bit of an understanding for, you know, it's sort of just a fun event. You know, we're trying to get people just to interact, get out of the house, so to speak, right, and have some wine. Again, I think it's a work in progress. We're going to look at other things. We've looked at YouTube Live. It's just the easiest, simplest one without a lot of these kind of slow technical issues, because Instagram has great live feed. It works. So.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point. With one-on-one tastings, it's very easy to set that time up and to make sure that your attendees are going to be there. They've either emailed you or you've called or emailed them and you've set up a specific time. How are you marketing these group tastings? And Art, I'm going to throw this one to you.
I lost you a little bit there, but the marketing is obviously we do promotional. So throughout the week before the tasting, we do stories that kind of hint to it. In fact, you can do on Instagram, you can do a countdown, which is great. And people can actually tab it and it will remind people to go on. And then we do an email with a calendar reminder. And we, you know, I think we had, when you added up the different on IGTV and live and then YouTube, we had like 1,000 viewers total when I started adding it up. So it does, you know, you can get people's attention. I think it's the extra step of when you have that link that people have to click at a certain time. Although we clearly got a lot of people here, maybe people in the busy day wouldn't think to do that as possible because people have so many distractions.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know what's emerged as a pretty popular virtual tasting lately has been tasting with the winemaker. And the winemaker is going to go through a certain set of wines, you know, 3, 4, however many it is. Robert and Shannon, I know you've been spending a lot of time doing these types of virtual tastings with your winemakers. Could you talk to us a little bit about the logistics of planning that and how you ensure that the wine gets to the consumer in time?
Do you want to go first, Robert? Or
sure. So our virtual tasting is scheduled for Friday. And I made sure that we had a window of opportunity for people to order the selected 4 bottles that we would include in the virtual tasting with Ashley, our winemaker. And the cutoff was this last Sunday so that we could get those orders over to our fulfillment center to go out Monday, to arrive Thursday, just in case for some reason they were out at a park, which isn't happening anymore, when the wines showed up. But it would give me an opportunity to email them and get them excited throughout the week. We're going to do some pairings along with the wines to get some more interaction. But so I started about a week and a half before the actual ship date. The Saturday, I sent out a final email just to remind people that there were a few spots available. Again, creating that scarcity and, oh my gosh, I better get my order in. So we're really pleased with the outcome of the orders that we received. And, really what we're trying to do here is generate revenue that we're not able to through the tasting room. So far, so good.
Shannon, you want to give us a little insight into what you're doing?
Yeah, so for the one-on-one tastings, we're actually scheduling them the same way you would if someone was coming in to taste in a tasting room. So once somebody has purchased those wines, we reach out to them and schedule their tasting. So we're able to kind of control the timing. We're offering those one-on-one tastings like every day, at 4 set times during the day, and certain times that are available when the winemaker's involved. So the customer really has full control and a digital ability to just very easily select what time they want and book it. And then we follow up there, making sure that they get all their personalized menu notes, that they get text sheets, that they get any other materials that they would normally have in front of them if they were in the tasting room. So it's been really easy for us. If a consumer wants it, the tasting to happens sooner than what normal shipping would take, then we certainly pull the triggers as far as expediting that shipment to get it sooner. But most of the time the expectation from the consumer is that there's going to be a little bit of a delay. They're going to order that wine and it's going to probably be at least 2 days before they can actually schedule that tasting.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings up an interesting question that I had, Shannon, and I know we've talked about this in the past, but what are you doing to differentiate your tasting from all the others? It's the same conversation we have, with any tasting room experience. What makes you special and how are you conveying that? And when I ask about this and I'm thinking about virtual tastings, I'm thinking about all the other virtual offerings that are happening right now. You think of celebrities who are doing in-home concerts, classes. So I'd love to start with you, Shannon, and ask each of you, what are some of the ways that you're differentiating these tastings?
Sure. I think you have a good point, Erin, in that to me, it's no different than we all offer tastings in our tasting room when our tasting room's open, right? We all have memberships or allocations. We all do similar practices, but we differentiate based on our brand and based on our customers. And I think that this experience is no different. If you're being true to your brand and you're resonating with your consumers and your target audience, then it is going to be different than everybody else. For Clos de Vol, a lot of, I think our strength is that I've got a really fantastic DTC team that really treats every engagement as a personal experience. So there's no cookie cutter approach. There's a lot of effort putting into discovering from the customer what they're interested in getting out of the next hour. And that's the same, again, if you're sitting in front of us at the winery, if we're talking to you on the phone, or if we're engaging with you during a virtual tasting. That being said, for our brands, there's different, we've got a winemaker, like I know a lot of wineries do, but a winemaker that is fantastic and willing to jump into anything we ask them to. So, that gives a lot of opportunity and a lot of flexibility in regards to having fun with more of the group experiences. We also, have with a family ownership and the family kind of having all their own different careers and career paths, there's stuff we can pull from there. I'm going to be reaching out to Helen Gillette, who is a chef back in Wyoming, and seeing if I can't get her to
jump in and do some kind of in-home cooking type things. So again, I think it's really about your brand, about the people behind the brands, about the team, and just staying true to that. And then we'll all naturally differentiate, just as we do with everything else we do.
Absolutely. You bring up an interesting question. I do want to hear from each of you on this one too. How are you training your employees or the people who are going live to deliver on brand and be engaging and, take in audience feedback? Art, could you tell us a little bit about, the conversations that you were having and the preparation you gave yourself and everybody else at the winery to go live?
So ours is sort of easy, right? We are a family wine, and literally we are the employees. We do the tasting. So we know the people in the family they know the pitches, they know everything to say. We sort of scripted it, at least topically. We kind of started with the wine of the day, and we'll do that next week. We'll have a wine of the day, and then talked about why we liked it. But then we brought people in and asked them what they were tasting, and then we were able to sort of build in or loop in technical information and thoughts on it without being kind of heavy-handed or too formal. When we do a tasting, it is simply hanging out and talking about the wine and enjoying the scenery. And we tried to have that here. I had my parents out front with the vineyard behind them, and I moderated and just make it fun and informal. That's our brand. That's our style. That doesn't mean that another way isn't the right way. It's just whatever fits kind of your setup. And of course, having us all having done tasting so many times, it sort of just worked out naturally.
Robert or Shannon, are either of you providing the hardware to your employees? What are you telling them about lighting or sound, or any of the logistics that go along with having to do a digital offering?
And Shannon.
Yeah. So we have at this point, moving forward, we would definitely want hosts at the tasting room, but with the current situation, we have given everybody laptops, got them set up so that they can host from home. And with everything, it's practice, practice, practice. So we have solicited customers, family members, friends, everybody to get our hosts practicing and doing tastings on a regular basis with people that we can get really genuine, good feedback from in regards to, maybe you should clean up the laundry or, or lighting's not being good, or I can't hear you, or anything that the feedback may be. So we've definitely solicited an army of support to allow us to practice and move at a very quick speed in regards to that learn by doing.
Excellent. What would you guys say is the ideal length of time for one of these, whether it's one-on-one, group tasting through Zoom, or a live tasting?
You just open to anybody?
Yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, I'll just say that ours went long. It went longer than expected. I literally said at the beginning of it, I'm like, look, we're going to shoot for around 30 minutes because we had a lot of interactivity with people coming on. I said, look, it could go shorter if it's all going bad. Ideally, I'd like to have it be 15 to 20. I think that's about, if you look, the great thing about Instagram Live is you can see the analytics. You can see how long people are watching. That's another reason that you might want to do it, because you can see who jumped on and for how long. And there's just a sharp drop off after like a minute or two. And that's just the reality. So you can see where you can maybe get some peaks, what wasn't. So that's just a note.
Yeah. Robert, what about with your winemaker tasting with Ashley? What would you say the ideal time is for that before eyes start to glaze over and people start to get fidgety in their chairs?
Yeah, as long, I don't think we have a set time. I'm planning on an hour, but it may be more, it may be less, as long as the attendees are engaged. And, Art, it's interesting with Instagram Live that you can see where that drop off is. I'm not anticipating 1,000 people, so ours may be a little bit different, even though they're both group focused. So I'm planning on an hour, but I think you're able to read it. And if you're not getting questions and you're seeing empty screens with no faces, then maybe it's not enough. Unfortunately, our winemaker is very charismatic, and she's super bubbly and just lovely, and everybody loves her. So I think it's going to go for that period of time.
Excellent. So post live tasting, post one-on-one tasting, do you have any plans to record these tastings or these experiences and post them up to a website or to YouTube? Or I think you had already posted one of them to YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, look, a great thing about, again, just telling you why Instagram is good, it just automatically saves it, and then I have it, so I uploaded it to IGTV where you can have your longer videos. And so to be clear, we had like 200 and something live, watch it live. It's all the aftermath, right? So we put it on IGTV, we got 500 viewers. So when I'm giving you my totals, this is over time. And then we put it on YouTube. And so we kind of have videos in both spots, but people watch for different reasons and different sites. So yes, I think you put it everywhere you can and get exposure. I mean, obviously the goal is to sell wine, but I think for us as a smaller brand, we're just trying to get brand exposure and continue to be sort of public and out there.
Excellent. You've said the goal is obviously to sell wine. That's very easy to do in a physical tasting room. You put down, a list of your wines and the prices and an order form. You ask them to join the wine club. How have, Robert, Shannon, or how have you changed the discussion around making a purchase now that we're on digital, right? It's maybe a little less subtle this way, it sounds like.
Yeah, from my perspective, from the way we're approaching it, the group experiences, the Instagram Live or the YouTube videos, we're using those actually more as kind of nurture campaigns, branding campaigns, kind of like Art was mentioning. It's more about kind of nurturing the relationships we have and having a platform for people to find out more about Côte d'Ivoire. On the one-on-one tastings, yeah, it's definitely a learning curve, but in that situation, it's really not that much different than in the tasting room. And I think we have more opportunity in some regards, because when we are tasting them through and there's a wine that they really love, we can say, you know what, if you love that, you're absolutely going to love this other wine. I can go ahead and waive the shipping, get it out to you right now. And all of that can happen right there because they're on the computer and they've got the POS up and you have your CRM up and you have everything that you need to really facilitate. Where in the tasting room, all that good, rich CRM data, you got it before you went into the tasting. You can't look at it on the screen while you're talking to them. You have to remember what the purchase history was. So being digital actually kind of allows you to see all those tools in real time and reference them. And I think actually gives the potential for sales to be even larger.
Wonderful. Is anybody charging for these tastings, particularly the group or one-on-one, or is this all brand marketing right now?
Brand marketing.
Yeah.
100% brand marketing. Yeah, no charge.
And no thoughts of doing so in the, oh, sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
Sorry, the one-on-one tastings are conditioned on a purchase. So that we're not charging for the tasting, but those one-on-one, tastings do have a purchase condition.
Sure.
And is that a 4-bottle purchase condition? What are the rules around that?
For us, it's 4 bottles.
Okay, great. That
For
seems
our tasting was 4 bottles.
Yeah. That seems to be pretty standard, and at least in what I'm hearing and seeing from wineries. So that's, I think 4 bottles is a pretty good number if you're going to get the winemaker one-on-one, right?
Sure.
Is everybody sending 750s, or are you sending smaller sample sizes like you would if you had walked into a tasting room?
750s.
Yeah, we are doing 750s, but we have a couple of tasting packages put together that include a Corbin. So part of the one-on-one tasting is walking people through that so that they can, if it is just one person or a couple sitting on the other side of the screen, that they can taste all of the wines without popping. Otherwise, it's going to be a really fun night for them if they're going to pop all 4 bottles, which I'm all for if that's what they're doing. But we include a Corbin in those packages so that they can taste through it. And then have that moving forward also.
Yeah. Hey, well, there's shelter in place. There's no drunk driving. So 4 bottles, why not? All right. We're running close to the end of our content. And I've been watching the questions as they come in, and these are great questions. Please feel free to send more as you think of them. But I have 2 final questions for the panel, and I'm going to go in order with each of you. Have you seen any ROI on these yet? And if you have, can you share a little bit about what that is? Robert, can we start with you?
Well, the ROI that I've seen is that not specifically from the virtual tasting, but those orders certainly were something that we ordinarily wouldn't have received. But our shift in sales from inbound, or actually from POS, is all shifted over to inbound, direct mail, website. So I'm thrilled. I mean, this is what we've been trying to do for some time.
Excellent. Art?
Yeah, I mean, so again, we're not doing the one-on-one tastings, which I think is a great opportunity to sort of sell wine, obviously, right? But I think as this catches on, we're going to do it every 2 weeks, and I think it's going to be the same time, Thursdays at 5 Pacific. As it catches, we say, look, have any wine you want. We really say that. Most people have Flambeau, right? But I've noticed that people bought some wine in advance of the video, I assume, to get on, and talk about what they're drinking, or just, I guess, to just participate. So I think as time goes on, we will see more people buy. In fact, we're going to offer a package for each tasting. So if the tasting that week is our Mardi Gras trio, we're from New Orleans, and it's the purple, green, and gold, we'll order those 3 wines, and it's a lot of fun. And I think we'll see some people buying to participate, not necessarily, and then they'll buy. And we did see some club ads from our video, and certainly some orders, which are always great. In fact, we had people that just seeing the interaction and understanding that they couldn't get the 14 Dry Creek cab without being in the club. I had 2 people say, well, I'm ordering your wine all the time. I want to be in the club. And I'm like, gosh, I didn't know that was a secret. So it really is a good opportunity.
Excellent. And Shannon, what ROI have you seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little too soon to throw out kind of conversion AOV type things from these one-on-one tastings, because we've got a bunch booked, but we haven't actually been rolling through enough to be able to give you some information there that I feel like is really solid. But the return on investment as far as engagement and as far as people scheduling these tastings has been great. And again, exciting to see that it doesn't seem to be age-based or demographic-based. Like, people are really thrilled to have the opportunity to enjoy the wine country experience at their dining room table.
Absolutely. Great. And my final question for the panel, what lessons have you learned so far? What's working for you and what's absolutely not working? Art, why don't we start with you?
I was expecting a lot more nightmare scenarios when we first did the tasting. I figured that the internet would, we had the dog bark experience, right? So that was fine. But Instagram, okay, so the negatives of Instagram, it's a portrait mode, right? So it's vertical, and you can't change that. So you really have to keep that in mind when you're shooting. You're going to get a lot of the atmosphere, right, and the clouds, which can be great, but at the same time, and we had 3 people in the panel. I think that was sort of a big issue. And then sound quality is an issue. If you're going to go outside, you probably want a mic. And so we learned that. just generally speaking, there was some minor tech stuff, but nothing that was in. Look, it really can work. I think, I believe it was Robert who said, it's a matter of getting it to catch on. And I think people have to see that it's fun. And then over time, you'll develop that audience. And so, you're going to have problems, but just like problems, and you just have to figure out how to improve it every time. And I think it's going fairly well. Instagram makes it easy. Facebook makes it easy. So.
Yeah. And I think we're at a point in time where people are more accepting of those problems. We've all had to go digital very fast. So, a little hiccup here and there at the very early stages. I don't think that should be a barrier to start, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're in uncharted waters, and I think everybody is accepting of limitations on different platforms, and I don't think that there is any perfect platform. So people are patient with it. They're just excited that it's a new avenue of connecting with us.
And Robert, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in your experience so far?
Because we haven't done the virtual yet. Yeah, I don't know. Ask me next week.
Shannon, what about you?
I think thus far it's tricky to show somebody how to use a Coravin when you can't put your finger where you need to put the finger for them, or you can't push down for them. I think similarly to when you have somebody sitting in your tasting room in a really comfy area that's having a good time, keeping things on time is also very difficult when somebody's sitting in a super comfy area of their own home and has the winery in their house. So I think our biggest challenges thus far have been actually good, is that we did one the other day that went 2 hours, and it was like, holy moly, but it was okay. It was okay given the circumstances and the fact that they just wanted to keep talking. So I think those are our biggest challenges thus far. Excellent.
Well, thanks to all three of you for answering my questions. We've been getting a bunch of questions in the Q&A feature on Zoom, and I'd love to take the opportunity to make sure we're answering some of them. For all the attendees, please know you can upvote the questions that you do want to see the answers to. So please vote up as much as you can. The first question we have, how do you improve the quality of the image via Zoom? What equipment are you using? Shannon, I believe you've been using Zoom the most. Do you have any insight to that?
Probably not very good insight, because thus far all of our computer cameras have done just fine. So I haven't come across a situation where I've had to solve that yet. But I'm sure if the quality wasn't okay, then we would just get an external camera that has better quality.
From my own experience in doing Zoom, I've found that lighting is incredibly important for image quality. I have every single light in my house aimed at me right now because you can see I get a lot of light in from my windows. That, and then just making sure, especially if your users are at home, that they're not overloading their Wi-Fi. It sounds silly and something that shouldn't be a problem anymore, but if they have a lot of different devices using Wi-Fi at the same time, it unfortunately at this point will affect video quality. Great. Let's see. What are the feelings of how well group tastings have been received over one-on-one sessions? Anybody want to jump in there?
I mean, go ahead, Shannon. Sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I haven't done the one-on-one. I'm actually really intrigued by it. I think it would be fun, to just do it, I guess, like we regularly, when we do a booking, online, we could do it that way. That's a good idea. And I bet it really does kind of make people feel like they're there. But the group tasting, like I said, for interactivity and just getting people sort of interested who otherwise maybe weren't interested in the brand or kind of knew it and looked at your pictures. I think, they get to hear about the wine, and someone asked a little bit down the line here, how do you on your video? I like supporting other brands in the area, and I like supporting other wines, and so it doesn't bother me. I think it's again, when you have a group, you're inviting all kinds of weird elements, right? Things can go wrong. People could be, trolling you or whatever. There's some dangers there. So I think that's a risk, but for the most part, people, and if you can get them interested, even by drinking another wine, about your wine, what you're tasting, and why it's different than ours, or why it's similar, and why you might like it. So,
Excellent. I see another one. Can you have a buy now feature in the virtual session? Would it need to have an offer associated with it? That brings up a good point. Are you offering, I know Robert and Shannon, you have a 4-bottle minimum purchase, but are you providing any other offers, coupons, discounts to go along with it?
Yeah, so for the 4 bottles, we're doing $1 shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been offering shipping discounts kind of aside from virtual, as I think many of us are, to just make it easier for customers to get it in their house. But for the tasting package itself, it's a package, so there's not necessarily a discount called out, but we're certainly putting some padding in there to make it really easy for people to bring in those bottles of wine and that pour event and taste with us.
Art, are you doing any discounts for your wines at the very least for these tastings?
Yeah, so the Mardi Gras trio that we're doing next week, which is the Chardonnay, Zin, and Rosé, we're going to do a sort of the package just to encourage people to buy the 3 and to enjoy them during the tasting. This will be our first time trying that, so I'm interested to see if it moves the needle.
Great. How are you booking appointments for the one-on-one or group tastings online? Is it just through email, or are you using a different platform?
For the one-on-one tastings, we use Talk for our regular reservations, and we're able to use it for this as well. So once somebody makes that purchase, we're able to send them a link to reserve. And again, they can make that reservation just as if they were making a reservation to come into the tasting room. For group, it's kind of, when we're on Instagram, we're doing something like that. It's I think a little bit like Art was speaking, is more the merrier. You communicate it up front through the social channels, through every channel that you have, and then whoever's on is on.
Yeah, for ours, we've emailed a specific time and we'll send a Zoom link for those attendees.
Right.
Erin, I would just add, so this comes back to that one. For individual one-on-one tasting, that's how you're going to do it, right? You're going to have an appointment. But for these group tastings, I just the lower you can make the bar, the more likely they are to come. So if you give them an email link and they have to do the link at a certain time, I just feel like what you're trying to do is just make it. They can just go on and start to do it. And I will tell you, if you look at the insights, if you look at the analytics, people are joining 10 minutes in. They forget, then it pops up. And so there is a reason to go a little bit longer. And also when you see people coming in and they're sort of commenting and getting engaged, it sort of any hurdles, absolutely recommend. There's some things that just.
Great. Art, you mentioned the analytics. We were talking yesterday, and you mentioned you had some that you would be willing to share. Would you be able to pop those up on screen and just talk about the analytics a little bit? I'm seeing a lot of questions about that.
You broke internet, right? This is our. Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about analytics, and you said you had some to share. Would you be willing to share the screen with us?
I didn't. I sent it to you, and I thought maybe you'd be able to do it. I was hoping you could throw them up.
I certainly can. Okay. Let me pull that up real fast.
So you guys want to see how the analytics look on Instagram? This is it. Hopefully,
Great.
I hit this.
Yep, I can share this image real quick.
And once it pops up, I will explain. I put her on purpose just to mess with her.
These are the things you learn about doing virtual tastings and webinars, right?
Well, I tell you what, I'll start. There it is. Okay, so you can see a screenshot up there. Hopefully, we can get that a little bit bigger. But that's, and you could see. Hopefully, it's kind of small, but you can. And that's kind of screenshot of our tasting. And then, so Instagram offers insights, and I think they're great. Don't mind the comments too much because this is our IGTV insight. So telling me what V, which is a feed. Go to the next one. The next image.
Yep.
At that time in what, minute 2, minute off. So, you know, it's not an engaged tasting where people are clicking your link. They're seeing the live story and they're coming on. They're trying to see, you know, what it's all about. And you can see some there. Yeah. Okay. So this is a little bit above that. This tells you how many views you had so far. This was as of yesterday, 516, 84 likes. To answer someone's question, you can actually see specifically who followed you. All 516. Up to them, I can direct message. Fantastic. If you social media platform, very insightful. So at time watched you how easy it is. Active audience you can engage. So more interesting. I don't know.
Great. Art, you cut out a little bit there for me. Sorry about that.
Hopefully that was somewhat helpful.
It was. Yep. All right. I'm going to stop sharing and go back to the main screen. We're about to wrap up. But if anybody has any last minute questions, please feel free to send those in. Art, this one seems to be for you. What's the legality of having a video showing people drinking with the TTB? Specifically for Instagram TV and Facebook Live, since the private tastings would be sent to a private email list.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness, it's not, you're not publicly you're not putting it out there and saying to choose to select it. And we do have minimum age requirements. I think we're okay, but I would be interested to know if somebody has some issue with it. I will tell you that a lot of the TTB regulations, at least on a state level, are being relaxed. And I would be shocked if, under current circumstances, they were actively enforcing. I mean, I'm now on the internet saying I do it, so I guess I'm in trouble if so. Hopefully not, but.
All right. Well, I think that's hopefully a decent note to end on. I want to thank Robert, Shannon, Art for joining us today, and for everybody who logged in. We will have a replay of this available on winebusiness.com. Shortly after, we're going to get our download from Zoom and post that up as soon as we can. If you have more questions, please feel free to let us know. We have a log of all of the questions that came in through chat and the Q&A feature, and we'll try to address them in either a future webinar or in an article on Wine Business Monthly or winebusiness.com. Thanks again to everyone. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you for having us.
Stay safe, everyone. Good luck.
Bye-bye.